Mr. Speaker, it's always good to go to speak after the member, Andrew Little, because he always provides a little platform to speak on. And we know that the party logo of the Labour Party is to vote positive. And he couldn't stay on message. He began negative, talked about the National Party and all its negative tones, and some of us wondered how do they get their branding and logo. We sort of think, Mr. Speaker, they got together and they realised that the polls weren't doing well, so they had a little sort of committee. They met together and they asked the question what was going wrong, and what was going wrong was that they kept on talking negative about everything that was going on. So what they said is this: let's go out there and let's tell people to vote positive. The difficult thing for Mr. Little is that every time he tries to act positive, it's very difficult. He goes negative, but he did go back on message. I'll have to give you this, Mr. Little. You went back on message and you became very positive as well at the same time too. And look, I want to join in that positive stance, because really tonight is a night we want to congratulate our member, our colleague, Mr. Tripod here, the honourable member, Cam Calder, because he is an honourable member. And one thing that I'm absolutely just have enjoyed our time here and enjoying our colleague is that in many times that as he stood up, he's been very passionate, he's very honest, he's been true to his convictions and what he believes is important for the communities that he serves. And here he is. Yes, he's the man from the Neki. He may live on the shore, but when the opportunity to serve Manurewa came, he went in their boots and all. And just even today, I remember that I actually said to Cam, I said to him, that's right, Manurewa hard. And he said, Alfred, we're no longer going to go there. It's Manurewa proud. And he began to tell me about the reasons why. Because the community that he serves out in Manurewa, he said, for so many times things have been hard in that community. And he said now he wants to change, and for the time that he's been there serving that community over 6 years, he's been talking about how this community can be proud of the place that they live in, of the things that they have there, the schools, the services they deliver. And so I really want to commend you, Cam, because you've been absolutely a champion of ensuring that the community of Manurewa, when people look into their community, they may judge it by all sorts of different things, but as you've worked in there, you've wanted to say that Manurewa, its community and its people, should be proud of the place that they live in, should be proud of the community that they serve, and should actually grow that community from the inside out to be transformative, and from the government that you've been working in the role that you've played as well. So I want to commend you for that too. Mr. Speaker, it is an honour that for anyone to be able to have their own private member's bill, but not only being drawn, and we've talked about there being the roll of the dice, and there you go, you've come out of the ballot and you've had your private member's bill. But as my colleague here, Mike Sabin, said, it's one thing to get drawn, it's another thing to take the bill to completion. And one thing that I know that from my colleague here, that is he has worked on the summary offences possession of handheld lasers amendment bill.
Lobbied like you wouldn't believe.
He's lobbied in a way that's made a difference. And here's the proof of the pudding. He's been the chairman of the Education and Science Select Committee, where he's had to work in a collegial way, knowing the fact is that the balance of power can sway either way. And that's testament to your chairmanship. There's testament to the fact is that when you've lobbied and you've worked, you wanted to get the collegial, consensual sort of response to supporting the things that you've led as well. And you've done that, and you've done a great job with your bill as well. Mr. Speaker, the other thing I want to say about this bill, and it's my first time to speak on it, so it's actually an honour to be able to speak to this bill. But can I say this, is that and people have commented that it's only a small bill, it's a small thing that makes the difference, and you may tick it as an output saying, yes, the purpose of this bill is to be preventative in its impact, but you see it's the outcomes that I often look at that do make the difference. So here are some of the outcomes that I think make a difference. It tells juvenile offenders that are out there, it tells young people, and we've all been young in our days, and then when they go out there, that yes, you can be a little bit cavalier, you can maybe sort of go out and a bit of folly and play. I'm trying to use these words that I know Mr. Cam Kohler would use. But the fact is that there comes a time where you need to be responsible. And I think that's the key word, that this is preventative, because it's one to be responsible even for the things that you take into your hand, and you've talked about this, that a handheld laser can be used in a way that it can become a weapon. And so here's an outcome that it's doing. Actually, it's sending a message to people that are out there: be aware and be responsible for your actions as well. The second outcome that I think it's important, that it means that for our enforcement agency, it puts in their hands a tool that enables them to be able to use this in a way that actually ensures that that they can enforce, this provision that allows them to be able to, if needed, take action and to enforce the legislation and the laws that come out of this bill as well. Mr. Speaker, when we think about this, we think about the tragedies of the Malaysia Airlines and so forth and what happened there, I began to think about this handheld laser and the impact that it could have, and I thought about NZ474, that's the 6:40 flight that leaves Wellington through to Auckland. Mr. Speaker, and I know that often Cam and a number of us at Auckland MPs catch their flight. I think on average there'd be about maybe 12 to 15 MPs that are on there. Now, could you imagine that flight, NZ474, coming down to land in Auckland, and it was blinded by a laser, and all of a sudden it lost its path, and the tragedy of all tragedy happened. 15 MPs of Parliament, were tragically taken away, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that would be a tragedy of all tragedies, Mr. Speaker. We could have been in that situation. That's right, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, we laugh a little and we jest, but the truth of it, Mr. Speaker, is that in the wrong hands, in an irresponsible way, we know that it can cause damage. We know that, for instance, and as has been quoted, that the number of incidences with laser strikes has increased, and it can only increase unless this bill, that's an important bill, enforces a key message of responsibility for people that are out there as well. Mr. Speaker, what we also know that is important is that this has caused damage, and so here's some of the evidence that we know that's out there. In June of 2011, a young boy who played with a laser, purchased in Thailand, he reflected the beam in his eye through a mirror, and he suffered a damage to his eye as well, and we know that that's caused harm. In 1998, in June, Mr. Speaker, the Waikato Rugby Union game, we know approximately 30 cases of arch eye reported after a rugby match. So we know that it does happen. We know the impact that it has, Mr. Speaker, and we know the damage that it can cause. Mr. Speaker, I just want to finally finish up on this, Mr. Speaker. I just want to acknowledge my colleague who will go out there, and just to say that it is a proud moment to be able to ensure that at this third reading you've got unanimous support. Not many bills get a unanimous support that actually say that right across the House. People support its intent, they support its action, not only its output but its outcomes to truly make a difference to our communities. I salute you, Dr. Cam Calder, and thank you for your work and for your service to New Zealand, to this Parliament and to the National Caucus.
This is a split call. Sue Moroney.
Thank you very much. And on the issue